Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with me. My name is Teresa Shimagawa, and I'm Minister's Assistant here at OCBC. My talk today is called Empty Seats, Full Hearts, and it's about learning to embrace life's fleeting nature and how that can help us transform our sorrow into an active appreciation for the present moment, and also inspire a kinder, more engaged life. So I thought about this topic because the holidays are upon us. Next week, or this Friday, we have Halloween, and then we have Thanksgiving coming up, and Christmas, New Year's. It's like boom, 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 all in a short period of time. And the holidays can be difficult. We have empty seats at our tables, people who aren't there, and that weighs heavily on our hearts and minds. It's not just reserved for holidays. We collect other dates that feel particularly tender throughout the year, like birthdays, anniversaries, death anniversaries. I know in my family, just this week we had my late husband's birthday. So these are days that feel extra heavy with grief. But the holiday season feels particularly emotional and heavy with grief because it magnifies everything that we feel. Holidays are for being with loved ones and happy times, and it's not just the people who have grief from losing somebody. Grief can manifest in many different forms for various reasons. So I wanted to focus on this particular time of the year and the vulnerability that it brings to our lives. So for my sister-in-law's first birthday after her death, we gathered at a Korean restaurant because in that last chapter of her life, she was really obsessed with K-drama. And it was our first family gathering since her funeral with my brother-in-law, one of my nephews, my niece, and of course my children. And my youngest, Peter Jack, who isn't here today, he's at ice hockey, but he did approve my talk. I had him listen to the references to him, so full disclosure. He was really quiet throughout dinner, and I thought he was just pouting because I made him leave his device in the car. But later in the evening, when we were getting ready for bed, he was kind of like, in passing, he kind of quietly said, "I really felt an empty seat at the table without Auntie Lois." We have these milestones, these dinners, these family gatherings, life marching on, and always empty seats. And I feel like I'm finally at an age where I understand this, but I always heard it from the adults. But I can remember family gatherings, laughter, inside jokes, the food, the people. And then when I think about how long those gatherings were, like how long ago, it always shocks me the amount of time that has passed. My favorite Thanksgivings were the ones when my grandma, who I called Teta, that's grandma in Arabic, Teta would cook for us. She was a phenomenal cook. And she would stuff the turkey with Arabic rice, which I think is the ultimate expression of the American melting pot. And I was just the kid enjoying the dinners, loving her food, having fun, playing. And you take it for granted as a kid that your grandma's always going to be making the dinners and you're just going to be enjoying them. And then one day you're in charge of Thanksgiving dinner and grandma's been gone for decades. And all I can say is, I know we have a lot of grandparents in the room and we also have a lot of kids, but to the kids in the room, all I can say is just cherish your time with the grandparents that you still have, because in the grand scheme of your life, it's such a short blip on the radar of your life that you get to have them with you. It goes by fast. But when you're young, decades don't mean much. You don't have that perspective or that frame of reference. But now I really feel that the decades go by so fast. And I remember being so excited to host my first Christmas in the first house that we bought, which this is the picture of that Christmas. And then I look at the picture, and many of the people in that picture are either deceased, which is super depressing, or they're no longer in our lives for various reasons. The little kids are grown up. There are kids who were born after this picture was taken. That are almost grown up. And it's just this impossible mind twist because you feel like it was just yesterday, but it was like 16 years ago. And you just wonder, how did the time go so fast? And they say that the days are long, but the years are short. So the night after Peter Jack's sad reflection about empty seats at our dinner, I woke up in the middle of the night with this dream where I saw my late husband and something felt off. It didn't quite look like him, and for some reason I was mad at him, and then he was mad at me for being mad at him. That really wasn't all that unusual. That happens, right? But I just woke up feeling startled, and then I was desperately trying to go back to sleep so I could find out what happened. It felt so real that you want to go back to it. But I lay in the darkness, unable to fall back asleep, just alone with my nagging thoughts and wondering if my sister-in-law's dinner triggered those thoughts of Kenneth, because they were brother and sister. And certainly her absence definitely magnified his absence. For a fleeting moment, I started laying there in the dark thinking, wouldn't it be so cool if she could give him an update? Like if she could tell him that our son Ethan is tall and he likes Magic the Gathering like he did, or that Eloise, she's athletic and creative, or our baby, Peter Jack, that he has this wild spirit. Wouldn't that be so cool? But then I'm thinking, I don't really believe that that's going to happen, but it sure would be cool and it's really fun to think about. And then it occurred to me, and this was kind of depressing, because any update that he could have given, or she could have given to him, would be outdated already. We're not the same people that she knew. And that was a really sobering thought. Still, we yearn for that connection. Later that week, Peter Jack asked me what exactly happened to his dad. And I've answered this question so many times before, but he's little. He was little when it happened, so each time I answer it, probably his understanding evolves. And so I answer again. This time I Google, show pictures, and he kind of quietly says, I think I've lost my appetite. And I recognize that this process for him as a child is delayed because of his age, but he's in the stage where he's trying to make it make sense. And the problem is, sometimes it never makes sense, no matter how much we want it to, even for the adult. So it's really difficult to try to help a child make sense of it. A few days later, I wake up from another dream. I'm really dreaming this week. And it doesn't typically happen. I don't actually have a lot of dreams. But this dream, I am sharing custody with Kenneth. And I had to keep dealing with his new wife over child logistics. And she was nice enough, but he wasn't warm toward me. And I realized that the son that we were sharing wasn't actually a kid that I recognized. It was some distorted reality. And I was in this alternate reality, I think kind of like if you've seen the Miles Morales Spider-Verse, or those Spider-Verse movies where there's all different versions of Spider-Man and these different storylines. That's how it felt. And I'm in this different reality with a husband who no longer loved me, and this stepmom who's in my business, and he hands me this ticket that he writes on, and he writes my name on there, and he uses my maiden name. So I'm even more angry because it's like we were never even married, and I'm more agitated. And then when the woman was trying to talk to me about kid details, I'm feeling confused, like who is she, and why is she talking to me about my kid, and who is this kid even, and why is my husband so distant toward me? So this is the dream. And 2 Kenneth dreams in 1 week, and that almost never happens. And both of these dreams agitate me, so I get curious about it. And I'm thinking about these weird dreams, and I'm thinking that maybe the dreams are trying to convey something to me, like is there meaning behind them? And then I kind of come to the conclusion that it's not probably in the way that I would have immediately thought. Maybe I'm looking at empty seats, but we're not in that storyline anymore. And the storyline threads are infinite, just like the Spider-Verse. And the one that I knew in that previous life, of course, it's over. And I don't need to really search for anything or any meaning. There's no messages that need to be conveyed. I just need to focus on the one right now, the one that I'm living, my story as it unfolds. And that's when it came to me. It's so difficult because we have this impossible task of holding space for an invisible force of an existence that will always reside inside of us, the memories, the people, our life with them. And we'll always love those people and those memories, and sometimes we'll even yearn for them. while simultaneously we have to keep moving forward on this journey into this new terrain without them. And that's a lot of juggling, especially for those people who are in the early rawness of new grief and pain. And it can be really scary. And sometimes it feels heavy, even when we think grief should be cleared out of our system. But the truth is, grief never actually clears out of your system. Sometimes I think when we feel like enough time has passed, and maybe others even expect that you might have forgotten or gotten over it, we still all carry around this invisible baggage. And it was really kind of a reminder to me that I also need to be more kind and patient with others, because if they are anything like me, they are just schlepping this heavy load up a steep mountain, trying to survive and thrive. And we're not always going to see that load, and they're not always going to tell us. So for me, it was a good reminder that other people are also in that similar boat. Somehow, my late husband, his death led me to pursue Buddhism, and it left me with this sect that focuses on gratitude, Shin Buddhism. Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi describes our practice as one of gratitude for everything that we have received, to balance our desire for what we don't have. I really love the way he explains this. I think it's a helpful way of thinking. I actually just attended one of his classes this past week where he talked about this again, and it's, to me, so helpful, because I can fall into bottomless pits of wallowing in my own despair, maybe thinking about what I have or what I don't have, but then kind of just remembering that I've received so much in my lifetime, and I have so much, and it's easy to lose sight of that when you think about, all the bad things, but there's so many good things in your life. And I think gratitude has a way of helping us find our center within, that balance. Did anybody happen to watch the Jane Goodall interview that came out this month? Anybody in here see it? It's really good. So Jane Goodall, probably for the young people in here who might not know who she is, she studied chimpanzees. She had a really cool job. And she was a conservationist, so she advocated for the earth and helping to save the earth. And she filmed this interview in March of this year on the condition that it only be aired once she died. So she died October 1st, and it's on Netflix if you're curious about seeing it. I think she was too nice, because I didn't think there was anything like really controversial in the interview. She did have a brief moment where she names public officials and elected officials who she doesn't like, and that was floating around on social media. But that was such a brief moment in the interview. Mostly she talked about hope, conservation, and action, and she talks about not giving up on making this world a better place. No matter how bad you feel and how much despair you feel, it's important to keep going for the youth, especially for the youth. And I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to show a brief clip, share it with you. Here it goes.
In the place where I am now, I look back over my life. I look back at the world I've left behind. What message do I want to leave? I want to make sure that you all understand that each and every one of you has a role to play. You may not know it, you may not find it, but your life matters, and you are here for a reason. And I just hope that that reason will become apparent as you live through your life. I want you to know that whether or not you find that role that you're supposed to play, your life does matter, and that every single day you live, you make a difference in the world. And you get to choose the difference that you make. I want you to understand that we are part of the natural world. And even today, where the planet is dark, there still is hope. Don't lose hope. If you lose hope, you become apathetic and do nothing. And if you want to save what is still beautiful in this world, if you want to save the planet for the future generations, your grandchildren, their because multiplied 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000 times, even small actions will make for great change.
She died at the age of 91 in the middle of a speaking tour, which is amazing to me. She actually was in LA in the middle of giving talks to people. You know, I've heard a lot of people lament lately in the last several years that everything feels hopeless, that there's so much suffering in the world, so many problems. Some people don't even want to look at the suffering because it brings them too much pain. Jane is one of my heroes because she died fighting the fight. I mean, I haven't had any role models in my own life at that age going around trying to save the world. It's amazing. She didn't do it with aggression like the chimpanzees that she lovingly studied throughout her life, but she did it in gentle ways. She had a steadfast belief in the power of hope. She used storytelling, education, and she had this commitment to keep taking the next step toward positive change, no matter how bad things felt. And I found that helping others has a healing effect even on my own well-being. When I'm engaging in volunteering or any kind of helping others, I feel better. And there's a number of studies that confirm the link between volunteering, helping others, and improved health and wellness, including reduced depression, reduced anxiety and stress, increased well-being and happiness. There are cognitive benefits, reduced mortality risk, and enhanced social connections. And Jane didn't say this in her interview, but there are real health implications, both body and mind, for people who help each other out. And in a negative way, for those who choose to self-isolate. We are innately social beings. We are better together. And we know this in Shin Buddhism, right? Because Sangha is so important to us. We're not bad people, though, if we find it all difficult to handle. Shinran, our founder, he encouraged honest self-assessment and profound insight into one's own limitations. And he often referred to himself and others as banbu, or foolish beings. We are filled with blind passions, which include greed, anger, and ignorance. Kids, you may remember it as gas. We're filled with gas, and we can't get rid of it. As long as we're alive and human, we have it. We have to deal with it. And this realization leads to a kind of spiritual despair, the acknowledgement that one is incapable of attaining enlightenment through self-effort. He famously confessed that hell is decidedly my abode, whatever I do. For Shinran, the despair that comes from realizing one's own spiritual bankruptcy is actually a crucial step. It forces one to abandon self-power and self-reliance, which are fundamentally tainted by ego. Once self-power is relinquished in despair, the individual becomes open to other power, the boundless compassion and wisdom of Amida Buddha. Despair is transformed into humble acceptance of one's flawed nature, and the individual is grasped, never to be abandoned by Amida's light. Amida is viewed as the embodiment of boundless compassion and universal wisdom that reaches out to all beings. In my mind, it's the inner peace that we can access, the gratitude, the feelings of gratitude, the contentment, the calm, quiet, feeling centered, happy, joyful. If only our minds didn't create 1,000 obstacles with the thoughts and emotions that we latch onto every single day, all day. It's learning to let go of these obstacles and get out of our own way. That's the process. And the thing is, we kind of suffer from this as children all the way until we die. It's like a lifelong journey. Going back to Jane, when I heard her message, I thought that she had a deep understanding of interdependence. In Buddhism, interdependence is a foundational and profoundly important concept because it explains the nature of reality and the roadmap to liberation from suffering. It asserts that nothing exists in isolation, and what we do matters to others. Impermanence is another important Buddhist concept. Everything we think is reality is merely a fleeting blip on the radar in the grand scheme of life. For me, it's like thinking my grandma would always be making Thanksgiving dinner. The most crucial role of impermanence is its direct link to our suffering. The problem: we instinctively cling to things that we find pleasant, our relationships, the things that we own, our good health, our happy feelings. We want it to last forever. But the reality is, these things are impermanent, like all things, and they're going to change. They're going to decay. They're going to go away. They're going to die. The result, our clinging or craving to what is constantly changing causes us pain because we feel disappointed, we feel the loss, the sadness, the fear. And I can understand all of this on paper, but it's so easy for me to forget this and to fall back into a stressed out state of mind. So I feel like I'm constantly in this cycle. Shinran wrote in the Cherishing, and I thought it was very beautiful, "The light of compassion that grasps us, illuminates and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred, cover as always the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists, there is brightness, not dark." And we have to remember that in any given moment, it's not all darkness. There is light. We often, though, need to remember to see it or need to remember where to look for it. And I think the practice of gratitude doesn't mean that we're always happy-go-lucky, thankful, positive people. I mean, if it does mean that, I'm in a lot of trouble. Because I think it's more of a course correction. We're on this long journey that we're all on. And when we start veering too far into the lane of what we don't have, we make a correction and remember what we do have and get back in our lane. And we just keep doing this all the time. And it's part of the journey, and it's the price we pay for being human. The goal is to stay centered, but to do so requires negative feelings and things that happen to us that we have to navigate. I personally have a lot of work to do, but I think maybe this is half the battle, recognizing that when we are off course, we need to get back into the lane. Reverend Marvin Harada, he's given a lot of talks here and when he references the Wizard of Oz, he's kind of famous for doing that, and how it relates to Buddhism. And one thing he said, I think in one of the last talks he gave here, really stuck with me. The destination is attached to the path. It is not separate. And it's so strange how our minds want to put things in boxes, the here and the there, and we crave certainty. We mistakenly think that people and things will stay in our lives forever, and we neglect the impermanence of life. We look for magic bullets to solve our problems, and we seek wizards to give us answers. We take impermanence as signs that our life has been derailed, rather than embracing that this is just part of the journey, and these challenges are part of the journey. The destination is attached to the path. This is the destination, the here and the now. Yet we are so often led astray as to what really matters. We want to put our eyes on a faraway prize when this is the prize. All of this to say that being human is hard. Having feelings and emotions and challenges, it's very hard. And as we get closer to closing out another year, we're in that season now where we're winding down, I think about enjoying the art of course correction. More perspective when times get hard, more thank yous, more giving, eliminating what doesn't work, staying away from people and things that derail your efforts, moving toward what brings you joy, being present, savoring right now, knowing and protecting your priorities and boundaries, taking advantage of every opportunity as you live the best possible storyline right now, understanding that all storylines have a beginning and an ending, and all we're guaranteed is right now. But also that our storylines are connected to everyone else's storylines, and we have the opportunity to make a positive impact in this world, in both big and small ways. And there's no such thing as too small. We have this chance to do that every single day. Each of us matters in this complex web of causes and conditions. And what we do and what we say, and even what we don't do and what we don't say, it all matters. And we're not going to get it right every single time, but I'm so grateful that we get the opportunity each morning that we wake up to make more choices and do it again, right? To fix our mistakes, to make new choices. You can see the empty seat at your table and let sadness guide your next steps, or you can see the empty seat at your table and with a full heart, make your next moves. Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you can please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda.